Welcome back to Unearthed. We're into the second week of January 2026 and already the Underground is delivering seriously strong releases. This week we're digging deeper into the latest albums, from the most malevolent, ruthless metal release so far this year to some genuinely beautiful and atmospheric records. We've got over 10 albums to cover in this episode, all released over the past week or two. Across the next 30 minutes, we'll dive deep into the underground, touch on the mainstream, and talk about the albums that shaped my week. We'll break down a band that's completely changed their sound and somehow pulled it off, check in on the rising force of Denominate, explore the doom-laden depths of Orchid throne, and go headfirst into the twisted world of Ectovoid. It's all coming up on this episode of Unearthed. Before we dive in, drop what you've been listening to in the comments, and let's begin. And welcome to the second episode of Unearthed. First up on Unearthed, we're heading to Switzerland to check out Black Jade and the new album The Return, released independently on January 9th.
Bring darkness into the world. Molten through in the heart of the waste, built on blood and hate. A taste of the past. Molten through reaching up.
I was actually really excited to hear this one. Their last album, White Hand Down, which dropped in late 2024, was fantastic. Proper, atmospheric, black metal, talking about the Lord of the Rings, J.R. Tolkien's world. So going into The Return, I had certain expectations. And honestly, I was completely thrown off at first. This album is a total shift in sound. Black Jade have moved away from black metal almost entirely and lead hard into groove metal and even some chorish elements as well, with punchy drums, infectious riffs, and even a bit of a metalcore edge. I genuinely couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like the land of Mordor had suddenly turned into a groove metal feast. At first, I gotta be honest, I was disappointed, mainly because I was expecting black metal. I even caught myself dissecting this album, wondering if this was actually Black Jade or some weird AI project, because the vocals are so clear and distinct. You can understand every single word. The growls are heavily distorted, but very controlled, and everything sounds extremely deliberate. But no, I come to the conclusion this is a real band, real people who have completely reinvented themselves, and that alone is absolutely kind of wild. I've never seen such a crazy transition in metal like this before. Once I got past the shock, I started to really enjoy it. Now the album kicks off with Luxburgs, and straight away it's clear this is a different beast, massive grooves and a catchy chorus. Molten Throne! The eye follows, and it is another banger with stompy drums, crushing riffs, and those distorted but clear vocals are really good. The last line slows things down a bit, but it hits hard, and it's one of the standout tracks for me. The Lord of the Rings and Dolgorda add another layer to this already confusing album. There's almost a power metal edge at times, even a hint of pirate metal energy on The Lord of the Rings, mixed with breakdowns and even core style vocal approaches. And then the Fall comes in and just reinforces how far removed this band now is from their black metal roots. Honestly, I can't stop playing this album. It's fun, it's catchy, and completely in your face. I'm still kind of mind blown that a band who once played atmospheric black metal and played very good atmospheric black metal have pulled off such a drastic shift into groove metal and made it work. I do think this will alienate some long-term fans, don't get me wrong, but there's no getting around that. But for new listeners, this could easily be a gateway album. But who knows, those new fans will end up digging back into Black Jade's older material and discovering black metal through that path. With all that said, I'm giving The Return an unearthed gem. I was angry at first. I was really angry at first, not going to lie, but now I really like this album, so an unearthed gem it gets.
It watches you and me with every breath we The terror never fades, it's a lie.
Next up on Unearthed, we're stepping into the mainstream with German thrash legends Kreator and the new album Krushers of the World. With our Krushers of the World. Released January 16th through Nuclear Blast. Take a listen. I'll keep this one fairly brief because, let's be honest, there are already thousands of opinions and reviews out there on the new Kreator album, but overall, this is very good. The Crush of the World leans into a more melodic anthemic thrash sound while still keeping that aggressive edge Kreator are known for. Sonically, the album is polished but very powerful and definitely one of the heaviest albums they've ever put out. You got sweeping melodic riffs, thunderous drumming, big choruses, and a strong emphasis on hooks without losing that thrash backbone. Miller Petroza sounds fantastic as always. His vocals are commanding and the guitar work across the album is sharp and memorable. Now the album kicks off with Seven Serpents, which is an absolute banger, instantly grabbing you with great riffing and momentum. Satanic Anarchy is another standout, super infectious with a catchy chorus and strong melodic focus. The title track, Krushers of the World, hits hard and leans into that arena-sized thrash energy. Tronen Plus pushes things a bit further into extreme territory, bringing in blackened elements and guest appearances from, what's that band called? High Rise or something, which actually works really well and adds some bite. Now Barbarian is straight up hard-hitting thrash, Blood of Our Blood channels classic Kreator energy and Death Scream is probably my favorite track on the album. Those blackened shrieks in the chorus are nasty in the best way. Now, Loyal to the Grave feels like a natural continuation to the Hater Uber Alice era, but refined and confident. In general, the album feels more focused than their previous release. It's more fun and more memorable. Now overall, this is a strong Kreator album, catchy, aggressive, and very replayable. It might not reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't need to. For me, it's definitely an improvement over Hater Uber Alice. I'm scoring Krushers of the World and Unearthed Gem. Check it out. Next up on Unearthed, we head over to Finland where For My Pain have returned with Buried Blue, released January 9th through Reinhardt Productions. Take a listen. Now this is their first album in, get this, 23 years. Now the last one dropped back in 2003 and I was just a little kid back then, so expectations were always going to be interesting. Overall, this is a really solid comeback. Sonically, Buried Blue leans heavily into gothic metal and alternative metal with a strong focus on atmosphere, melody, and emotional songwriting rather than heaviness. Now the album has a very polished, moody sound. Now the keyboards play a huge role here, adding layers of atmosphere and melancholy throughout the record, and the production keeps everything clean and accessible. There are plenty of catchy melodic moments and the vocals are consistently strong, fitting that somber, reflective tone the band know for. There are also some great guest appearances like Troy Donockley from Nightwish features on Windows Are Weeping, adding this signature folk inflected touch, which sounds like Nightwish at times, while Rina Redkinen appears on Teva, which is one of the more emotional tracks on the album. Tracks like Hungry for Desire, Witch Bitch Elite, and Child of the Fallen bring in more of that alternative metal flavor. While Gone Tomorrow stands out for its guitar work, Time Will Heal Our Wounds is super catchy, and tracks like Isle of Solitude definitely stick, although they tread a bit close to Halloween territory. The melody on Isles of Solitude is very reminiscent of Best Time, and while the band does add their own twist, it's similar enough that it stands out. It doesn't ruin the song, but it's something they'll need to be mindful of going forward. Recall into Darkness and Black Calla Lilies are all pretty memorable in their own way. The album closes with Burnt Out Sun, which adds some doomier weight and works well as a closer. Overall, I thought Buried Blue was a solid and enjoyable return. There's a good level of songwriting here, plenty of atmosphere, and a lot to like. I don't think it quite reaches the level where it really blows my socks off. It feels safe in places, and I think it could have pushed a bit harder. With that said, it's still a fun and respectable comeback album. I'm scoring this a solid find. Next up on Unearthed, we head over to the US and check out Funeral Dancer with their album Inner Gate, released January 9th through Inner Gate Records. So this is a solid record with plenty to enjoy, especially if you're into that raw black and roll sound. Sonically, it sits in a space that blends black metal, a little bit of a punk energy, and rock-driven riffs, giving it a vibe that fans of bands like Midnight or Night will immediately click. Now, you got dirty, energetic, and unapologetically underground, but there's also a dark, more sinister edge running through the whole album. The guitar work really carries this record. There are haunting, evil sounding melodies mixed with upbeat driving riffs that keep things fun without losing that menacing atmosphere. What's interesting is the song lengths. A lot of these tracks stretch out, with some pushing close to 8-minute mark, which gives the band room to develop ideas rather than just blasting through short songs. Now, the album kicks off strong with Starborn, an energetic opener that sets the tone perfectly in my opinion. Throne follows and really digs into that longer form songwriting packed with frantic riffing, blackened shredding, and manic vocal delivery. Astral Sedation is one of the standout tracks for me. The drumming hits hard, the pace is relentless, and the blackened shrieks really elevate the intensity. It's aggressive, chaotic, and genuinely fun. Last Chance keeps that momentum going, while the closer Cosmic Webs wraps things up with a twisted, spacey feel that leans further into the album's darker side. Overall, Inner Gate is an energetic and enjoyable listen. It nails the atmosphere, the attitude, the rawness, but for me the songwriting doesn't quite hit a level that makes me desperate to keep revisiting it. That said, it's still a strong release, and time may tell how I feel about it. For now, I'm scoring this a solid find.
Right, you motherfuckers! Let me see you fucking trash! Get the fuck up!
We're staying in the US for now, where we uncover new project Refugium that just dropped its debut album In Hope of Eternal Life, released January 9th through Desert Wasteland Productions. Take a listen. This is a one-man band with Garrett Smith handling everything, and what he's created here is a really strong blend of death doom, funeral doom, and death metal. It's a slow, oppressive record, but it's also packed with melody and emotion. The production leans raw to organic, which actually works in the album's favor, giving it that cold, natural atmosphere instead of sounding overly polished. Now, the album opens with autumnal verses, setting the tone immediately with searing yet mournful riffs, subtle piano underneath, and dreary, dragging guitar lines. Now, the vocals are raw and menacing, but there are also clean vocal passages woven throughout the record that add a surprising amount of depth. You also hear touches of flute, or like clarinet-like instrumentation, which adds an eerie, almost ritualistic feel. Now, Fate's Final Gasp leans more into that classic Doom territory with thick, crunchy riffs and stronger death metal elements. Across the album, the use of clean guitar passages really helps build atmosphere, giving the heavier moments more weight when they arrive. The Painless Flame is another standout, slow, bleak, and emotionally heavy. The piano work here is excellent, paired with soft, clean guitar intro and cleaner vocals in the bridge sections before collapsing back into those monstrous growls. Frostbitten Millennia is one of my favorites on the album, slow, crushing, loaded with emotion. That unexpected jazzy middle section is a brilliant touch, building tension before dropping back into pure death doom misery. Lust of Solitude adds even more layers like windpipe-like sounds, unsettling ambient sections, and massive heavy moments. The melodies on this track are particularly strong and really stick with you. Dispassion closes the album by dragging you through one final descent into despair, a dungeon-like atmosphere filled with eerie, distant organ tones that seal the record in pure darkness, and that's the ending. Overall, this is a really impressive debut. The production could be a bit sharper in places, but the raw organic sound suits the material, and the ideas here are genuinely strong. There's real emotion, atmosphere, and thought put into this album. I'm scoring In Hope of Eternal Life an Unearthed gem.
In the shadow of a glorious night,
Now we head back to Finland and check out Denominate with their third studio album Restoration, released through Duskstone. Take a listen. This album is an absolute banger from start to finish. We're talking progressive death metal, unpredictable, groovy, technical, and genuinely fun. What really grabbed me straight away was how often this album throws curveballs at you. Sudden tempo shifts, unexpected blast beats, jazzy detours, clean guitar passages, and solos that actually mean something. Now the vocals are seriously impressive, and the drumming constantly keeps you on edge. The low process is a perfect example of what this album does so well. Massive groove-driven riffs, sudden blast sections, smooth clean guitar breaks, even jazzy moments woven into the song without feeling forced. There's so much happening, but it never feels messy. Husk leans into chuggier riffs at first, but that simplicity quickly opens up into such beautiful melodies and even clean vocals. The guitar solos here are outstanding. My favorite track has to be Of Passing. This one gives me serious early Opeth vibes, but with a modern edge. The eerie guitar work, dark atmosphere, and emotional weight would feel right at home on Blackwater Park. The drumming is phenomenal, and the vocal performance, shifting between death growls, blackened shrieks, and clean vocals, is just unreal. You got Liminal, it brings in more technical riffing and sharp songwriting with a gorgeous acoustic section that again channels that Opeth influence before exploding into such heavier territory. Then there's Assistant, what a track, crushing riffs, huge melodies, and a haunting atmosphere. The intro alone is incredible, building slowly into one of the album's strongest moments. There's a very distinct Finnish feel to this song, especially with the clean vocals laid against the growls. The final build-up is massive, throwing in black metal textures, blast beats, and tremolo riffing before it all bleeds into the title track. Restoration closes the album perfectly, leaning into post-metal territory at times with airy guitars, progressive twists, and a sense of resolution without losing intensity. Honestly, this album floored me. The layering, the songwriting, the performances, everything clicks. I can't really fault it. Not enough people talking about Denominate, and I've had this album on repeat all week. I'm giving Restoration a monumental rating, easily one of the best progressive death metal albums I've heard in the 2020s, right up there with an Abstract Illusion. Now we head over to Italy, where we find Wars of Babylon and the album Aeons Apart, released January 9th through Wanikia Records. If you're into heavy metal with strong power metal foundations and progressive touches, there's a lot here to enjoy. And I definitely did enjoy this album. Now, this album thrives on big choruses, soaring guitar solos, and energetic drumming that leans heavily into that classic power metal gallop. Now, the solo in Eternal Hunt alone is absolutely mouth-watering. Vocals are handled by Valerio Goni, and he delivers exactly what you want from this style. A strong classic power metal vibe, a strong classic power metal voice that carries the melodies confidently. The album kicks off with Silent Guilt, a melodic opener with a catchy chorus and a great sense of momentum right out of the gate. Eternal Hunt follows and fully leans into that Halloween style power metal sound, galloping drums, melodic riffing, and a ripping solo that really elevates the track. Tears of Luminescence might have the best chorus on the entire album, an absolute banger with choral backing that gives it an epic, larger-than-life feel. The chord progression here is excellent. One thing I do have to mention though, that album cover, it looks like it belongs like on a manga soundtrack, and honestly it doesn't match the epic heavy metal vibe of the music at all. It's a strange choice, but thankfully the music itself delivers. Ashen Hero is another strong track with great riffing, even dipping into more alternative leaning territory at times. Starblight kicks the door down with heavier energy, one of the most aggressive tracks on the album, complete with a breakdown and a fantastic shredding solo. Once again, it's probably the weakest track for me. It feels a bit generic and comes across like filler, especially compared to the stronger moments elsewhere. Thankfully, Lies to Gold brings the energy straight back, fast-paced, sharp, and loaded with pinch harmonics. Blood for Blood and Epilogue close the album on a high note with hard-hitting riffs, energetic performances, and more great solos. Overall, Aeons Apart is solid and enjoyable release. The vocals are good, though they could have pushed things a little further in my opinion. I do think the album could have been trimmed slightly because it runs close to 50 minutes. Still, there's plenty of quality songwriting, strong performances, and memorable moments here. I'm giving this one an Unearthed gem.
Sing for the wicked, fight for the dead, walk your path, now take my soul. Time to grow up, time to make the holy old. Just go, you will
We head over to Northern Europe, where we find Soen and the new album Reliance, released January 16th through Silver Lining Music. Take a listen.
I'm in love with myself, pushing everyone away.
I'll keep this one tight because honestly there's not a lot to unpack here. When Imperial dropped into 2020, I was fully on board. I went back through their catalogue and thought, yeah, this band has something. Memorial in 2023 was decent, not mind-blowing, but solid. Now with Reliance, it feels like they've kind of hit cruise control and forgotten to take their foot off it. Now this album is Soen by numbers, chugging riffs, soft, almost angelic vocals, predictable heavy sections, followed by softer emotional passages. It's exact same blueprint they've been using since Imperial. And that's a problem. I wanted progression. I wanted risk on this album. I wanted something that made this feel necessary. Tracks like Primal, Mercenary, and Discordia are just there. They're not bad, not exciting, just average modern Soen songs. In different works as a slow ballad, but even that feels safe. They labeled this progressive metal, but let's be honest, there's nothing progressive happening here. Same chord progressions, familiar melodies, no surprises, 10 tracks that blend into one another far too easily. Then the frustrating part is that the musicianship is still strong, the drumming is excellent, and the production is clean and polished, but great execution can't save tired songwriting. This band has talent. They're just refusing to push it. It's not a terrible album per se, but it is a disappointing one. The sound is getting stale, and without evolution, it's losing its impact. I'm giving this a rusted relic.
And do I really need you here just to ease the fear that I'm all alone and empty within? How does someone become so heartless?
Next up, we head to Chile with Oraculum. They have dropped their new album, Hybris Divina, released January 9th through Invictus Productions. Now this is a solid record with a lot to dig into. The first thing that really stands out is guitar work. Those squealing leads, frantic solos and dissonant melodies cut through the mix and give the album a real sense of tension. There's a strong death metal backbone here, but it's constantly being twisted with doom-laden pacing, eerie atmosphere and occasional blackened edges in the vocals. Now the album balances crushing doom passages with faster, more aggressive death metal sections really well. The vocals are harsh and commanding, sometimes leaning into black metal territory, while the riffs stay firmly rooted in death metal. Now the themes are really dark and ritualistic, often touching on witchcraft and occult imagery, which fits the mood perfectly. Tracks like The Great One, which really capture that death doom essence, slowing things down just enough to let the atmosphere breathe before hitting again. Mendacious Heroism is another standout, heavy aggressive packed with sharp riffing, followed closely by Carnage, and the more mysterious Dolos Spiritual Virility keeps the momentum going, while Posthumous Exaltation leans hard into like that death doom territory again with its shifting tempos, eerie atmosphere, and excellent riff work. The production is raw and organic, which suits the album quite well. The guitars have a filthy old school tone, the drums sound natural and quite punchy, and the overall mix allows the atmosphere to really sink in. There's also a progressive edge throughout, with enough twists and turns to keep things engaging. This isn't one of my top albums of the year so far, but it's strong and it is quite a confident release, especially this early on. Plenty to enjoy here if you're into atmospheric death metal with doom influences. I'm giving this a solid find. Next we head over to the US where Ectovoid returned with their first album in 11 years, Unreality's Coffin, released January 9th through Everlasting Spirit Records. Now this album is seriously impressive. Ectovoid dived straight back into cosmic, otherworldly death metal, tending technical riffing, dissonant melodies, and a thick, unsettling atmosphere that hangs over this entire album. Now the production is punchy and clear without losing that underground edge, letting every instrument breathe while still sounding oppressive. The vocals are one of the big highlights here. Deep, monstrous, and commanding. They sound like they're echoing out of some abyss. Guitar work is absolutely on point, packed with twisting riffs, eerie melodic lines, and frantic, chaotic solos that feel deliberate rather than flashy. The drumming is relentless when it needs to be, with sudden bursts of intensity. It keeps you constantly engaged. The album opens with Dissonant Copperum, immediately setting the tone with that sharp riffing, warped melodies, and suffocating atmosphere. Collapsing Spiritual Nebula continues that descent into disorientation, while tracks like Intrusive Illusion push further into twisted, almost like hallucination territory. formless-seeking form. To me, stands out with its like progressive and technical edge, constantly shifting and evolving without ever losing focus. Now, the self-titled In Unreality's Coffin delivers some of the almost albums, like some of the album's most vicious vocal moments, while Erroneous Birth locks into that infectious riff that still feels thoroughly evil. It is without shape, acts as a brief instrumental, nothing special here. It's sort of like a breathing space before the album closes with In Anguish Levitation, an 8-minute monster that ties everything together, heavy, unsettling, and immersive with a sense of like the final moments as a closer that works perfectly. Overall, this is a dense, immersive death metal album that rewards repeated listens. There are plenty of ideas that pack into this record, no doubt, but nothing feels wasted or unfocused. You really need to sit with it to appreciate how laid and carefully constructed it is. For me, this is a standout release, a monumental. 10 albums down, and to close out this week's Unearthed, we head to the US for a one-man project called Orchid Throne. They have just released their debut album, Buried in Black, out January 9th, independently. Take a listen. I'll be honest, I almost skipped this because the album cover is a bit of an eyesore. Thankfully, that would have been a massive mistake because the music on this album is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Now, this record moves effortlessly between crushing doom, atmospheric black metal, death metal, progressive structures, and even subtle folk elements, all woven together in something genuinely immersive. Got Nicholas Bonsanto is the mind behind Orchid Throne, handling everything: vocals, guitars, drums, pianos, keyboards, flutes, and clarinets, whatever. And the level of detail here is quite impressive. This is a sophisticated, carefully crafted album with a lot to unpack. It opens with Dream World, a near 14-minute journey that immediately pulls you in, that haunting piano melody. The haunting piano melody just sets the atmosphere, followed by sweeping, ethereal, clean vocals, and that's the moment the album really clicks. The guitar work shifts seamlessly between beauty and heaviness, while the vocals move from mournful cleans to monstrous growls and even black metal shrieks. It's long, but it never drags. It feels purposeful and expansive. Unreality follows with a slow gothic doom build before erupting into some intense black metal. The clean vocals here feel ritualistic and the atmosphere is thick and unsettling. What defines us hits harder, more direct, and delivers some of the album's most crushing moments. Moonlight Reverie blends doom and death metal with elegant gothic touches, while Guilt offers a softer, more reflective moment with acoustic textures that give the album space to breathe. Breath of Autumn acts as a brief instrumental bridge before leading into With Promise, which might be my favorite track of the year. Now, this one leans heavily into atmospheric black metal reminiscent of bands like Imperial Decadence, Grimmer, and so on, but still very much its own thing. Now, the eerie piano lines, layered guitars, and subtle use of flutes and other wind instruments give it a folky, almost woodland feel. Could I say it reminds me of Soen as well? Yes. This is primarily doom metal, but there's just so much happening on this. You could throw in every single genre, and this album's probably got it. Now, With Promise is grim and beautiful at the same time. Now, throughout the album, Orchid Throne flow to progressive metal without ever losing cohesion. You can definitely hear echoes of Opus-style dynamics in places, especially in Dream World and Ephemerality, but the project never feels derivative. It has its own identity, its own mood, and its own voice. This is a hidden gem through and through, atmospheric, emotionally heavy, and deeply rewarding the more time you spend with it. This is an addictive album. This is why it's the closer of this week's Unearthed. It is amazing. I'm giving it a platinum. Do not sleep on this one. Please, you guys need to check it out. That's it for Unearthed this week. Hope you guys enjoy it. Join me next week as we continue to crack down the 2026 albums. So many releases, so many. It's really hard to keep up, but I will be focusing a lot on the January 16th releases next week on Unearthed. Let me know what you discovered down in the comments below. It's been fun, and I'll see you in the next one.